Good morning and welcome back to another episode of the Scottish CEO Show. I am delighted to have Scottish powerhouse author and probably the most requested guest ever, Sophie Gravia, who is the successful writer of A Glasgow Kiss and What Happens in Dubai, and maybe some other exclusives we'll have on the show. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
I'm just saying, we've had a glow up this morning with a new set.
I know, I love
it. Listen, it's been quite the glow up from what I've had over the past few weeks. So thank you very much for joining me. First of all, right, I put out asking, like, who do you want to have on the show? We were chatting this earlier, but you must be one of the most requested people in Glasgow. I feel like a Glasgow female and a Glasgow ma, you're like their hero. Oh,
that is so nice. And I do get loads of messages from people asking me to come on, but I'm so busy. I've hardly done any podcasts, hardly.
Well, we've got a lovely exclusive here for us today.
Definitely.
So thank you so much for joining us. Let's just start by taking it right back. Let's talk about you. So you've just kind of mentioned there, but an author, a best-selling author of 2 fantastic books, a mum and a nurse, all of that in one life.
I know.
Are you shattered?
I'm constantly shattered.
We talk about this in my office, right? Where if I was to describe life in one way, like even on The Apprentice we have a running joke, like my tagline was I'm fattered, I'm fat and I'm shattered 24/7. So hopefully you can relate to it.
100%.
You must be so exhausted running about after kids.
Yep.
What age are your kids now?
11 and 12. Yeah.
So close together as well.
I know there's only 15 months between them, I know, but they are getting, the bigger they get, the easier it gets as well. So they are a good help. Yeah, definitely.
And you're still a nurse full time.
Yep, I know.
Do you love it? But
I do, I love it, but I'm shattered. I've just done 6 days in the trot there, 13 hours in the trot, and I am done. Aye.
That's so hard. And I did actually, I was doing my research. I felt like a private investigator yesterday. I'm not going to lie. I was finding all the information. So let's just take it back. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about life growing up in Glasgow before you become this amazingly successful author, mum, and everything else in between.
So I grew up in Bellsill.
Right beside me, in Uddingston.
Oh, are you? Yeah. So I grew up in Bellsill, finished school, went to college and done a diploma in performing arts.
Well, I was just about to ask you
that.
When are we getting the bloody... when are we getting the BBC drama of these books? Do you not think that's mental though? You always find, right... And it's quite interesting you say that. I've interviewed so many guests and they always have a drama or a performing arts background. One of my best pals from The Apprentice, Rochelle, now owns a massive chain of salons, and I'm like, she's like, I went and studied television and media, and I'm like, that's mental to think. It's just a creative outlet, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I love drama at school, and I hated school, and my mum was like, you're not leaving school unless you've got something else planned, and she's like, what's your favourite subject? And I was like, drama, and she's like, Sophie, get a grip.
So where did you go? Where did you study?
It's New Lanarkshire College, but it was Coatbridge College at the time, and done acting, performance and script writing and stuff like that.
And do you find that helped you on this mental journey?
Massively. I don't think I would have done it if I hadn't done that before, because I loved it, but to be honest, it was just fun. I just done it to have a laugh with my pals. I have a college, a theatre school college essentially, right? And I'm sick having conversations with some of my students. So this is hard, and I'm like, it's brutal. You know yourself. When you go to drama school, or when you even go to, there's a lot of deadlines. People think that you're rolling about the floor as a tree. It's very, very, very intense. Physically, mentally, the hand-ins are due. So that's probably gave you a lot of discipline though in later life. Yeah, definitely. I loved it. That was probably the best time of my life. Was going
never know, we might maybe see you on the telly screens. Maybe you'll be in the books when they go to...
I'll be the Zara. No.
So tell us what happened after that then.
So I became pregnant. I was going to go to uni in Edinburgh, but I became pregnant with Olivia, my eldest, and I was only 18, so I was stressed, as you imagine. I left college, I finished college, had Olivia, then straight away fell pregnant with Grace.
Listen, keep them together.
Yeah,
like,
I know. I did want that because like me and my sister are really close as well, and
she had the baby at the same time.
She had one just after, and she was older than me, and we were like, yeah, let's do this. But as soon as I had Grace, I split up from their dad, and I thought, right, I need to get a job here. I don't want to live this sort of life, and I applied to do my nursing. And started my nursing when Grace was 12 weeks old.
12 weeks?
I know, it's mental. Looking back now,
I'm like, that's what I was going to say. Now that you look back at that time of your life probably felt so heavy with like having horrific. A baby, everything else, and like, could you imagine going back to doing that now?
No, definitely
not. Do you
not.
think though when you're younger you just have like, we were talking about this the other day, like you've got something inside you of like, you just don't feel as tired as what you get. Like, I mean, I'm not saying I'm old, you're not old, right? But like, we were just saying like, you have this resilience. Like when I was younger I used to like go to drama school, run a nightclub, and I'm like, see now, it gets to 9 o'clock and I'm like, I need to shut my eyes.
I know. It's just that was kind of life, and you just got on with it. Aye. I remember my mum walking in one day, and I was writing an essay, and I was breastfeeding Grace, and Olivia was on a bouncer, and I was bouncer, and my mum was like, right, what the fuck is going on in here?
We need to calm this down.
Aye, but I was like determined, so I was like, I don't want to live a life where they don't have everything they kind of want. So I started.
So you then went back, trained as a nurse.
Trained as a nurse for 4 years, and then started working in Monklands Hospital.
Been there?
And I've been there. I've been in the same ward since I started. The last 8 years.
I was reading and researching, should I say, because as I say, I think that my full office was buzzing when What Happens in Dubai came out, because it was like, I feel like Scotland was left for this, like, what's next?
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that and we'll come on to that. But so let's talk about how you go from being a mum to then a nurse to then thinking, do you know what? I think I'm right in saying this here, that you started as a blog.
Yeah.
So what point did you get to where you go, fuck it, I'm writing a blog, to then fast forward so many years to be sitting in a position where you are an amazing best-selling author?
I basically, so that way you want something different, right? So I had finished uni, I had got a job, a good job as people think, like working obviously in the hospital, but it did not pay the bills, like it genuinely didn't. And that way you think, surely this isn't my life. Like I was 25, I had a good job, I had a career, but I was like, I am struggling every single month to pay these bills, and obviously I'm on my own, and I was like, how the hell am I going to do this? And I watched a Tony Robbins documentary on Netflix, and I was with like my best friend Sarah, who is like the most I could tell her was going to do it, and I'd be like, listen, I'm good. She'd be like, yes you fucking are, yes you are.
Big up Sarah. Me and Sarah would got on my house and fire.
She is so motivational. And we watched it one night, and I was like, and it was talking about these light bulb moments and the signposts, like and then I finished watching it, and I says to her, I'm going to write a book. And I was like, I want to do something in writing. And she was like, yeah. I mean, it was so random now thinking about it, because I was a nurse and I wasn't writing. And she was like, aye, I think you should do it. Fucking do it, right? And she was like, what type of book? And I was like, I've no idea. Like, I said, maybe a children's book. Like, I was like, maybe, right? So I kind of had it in the back of my mind, but never actually done it. And I think I took some notes on my phone and stuff, but nothing actually pure stood out
substantial
for me.
Yet.
And then fast forward like maybe 4 or 5 months, I started going out and like dates again, and I had like a few really dodgy dates.
So I was reading and listening to something yesterday, and it was like, the blog was created and it was basically just like a space for you to offload. And then did you go on one particular terrible date? Tell us what happened in particular.
So I went out on this date, and it was the night before I went to my friend's hen do in Ibiza, and we were leaving at 6 a.m. So I was like, couple of drinks, keep it casual.
Doesn't exist.
Never happens. So I went out on this day. The guy was really nice, like really all-rounded, he was a gentleman all the way through it. And but that way I was trying to even read if he liked me, because I'm like, am I getting the vibe? I don't know. He was very like just chatting as normal. And then I couldn't get a taxi at the end of the night, and we're in Finniston. He was like, just come back to my bit and phone a taxi. That old
That's
chestnut.
how it starts. Come back for a cup of tea. You look like you need a bit of toast, and then before you know it, it's 8 a.m.
So I went back to his, and yeah, and then I went to the bathroom, and I came out, and he was like kneeling at the floor, naked, kneeling, and I was like, what is going on here? And he's like, I just want to sniff your pants. How long have you had them on? And like, it was like a full thing. But the worst thing is, I stood there and let him. Like, I just stood there because I was so shocked. Like, I was like, and then he's like, how long have you had these on for? And I was peering back. I was like, and it was actually a bodysuit I had on. And I was just like, a few hours, right? And he's like, oh, like rolling his eyes. So I was totally
Where did you meet this guy, did I ask?
It was either Hinge or Bumble or something. And then that obviously happened. I got a taxi. I went home and then I got ready straight to the airport. And then I was sitting I was like in a bad way in the plane, like not talking to anyone. And then
gathering your thoughts that some guy in Finniston last night has been asking you how long have you had your pants on for.
And then I was sitting around the loungers in Ibiza, and my friend was like, oh, blah, 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 how? And I was like, guys, something really weird happened to me last night. And I started telling them all, and they were all like killing themselves laughing. And one of the girls went, oh, you should blog about that. And as soon as she said that, I thought straight back to the Tony Robbins thing. And I was like, all right. And then that particular holiday, I broke my hand in Ocean Beach, and I was off.
Listen, the place that dreams are made of.
Exactly.
I go to Ibiza on Wednesday, actually, and I can't bloody wait. But
I'm so jealous.
Has anybody ever left Ocean Beach and remembered their own name?
I know.
So am I shocked that you broke your hand? But I feel like breaking your hand might have been the start of something, because am I right in saying you ended up with like 6 weeks off work?
I was off work for a while, and during that time off, that's when I started writing my blog.
So do you think that you just, like, we talk about these moments, and like, I know that just from talking to you for 2 minutes, right, like the law of attraction, you can feel it, right? And every single person that you speak to in the greater Glasgow that like works hard, that has did well, it's like, it's not a cult, it's real. It happens, and like what you're just saying there, but like that's a massive sign that you've probably to be sat writing.
Yep, yeah, I think so.
And that's just what you just sat and started writing.
And you just like read the message and do it, don't you? I know, it sounds crazy, but it genuinely has changed my life.
We're probably very grateful for Wayne Lineker, for one. So we've got Wayne Lineker.
Here, I get my picture, me and Wayne.
Get that in one of the books. So you and Wayne Lineker, he's broke your arm, we'll get that in there. Yeah. So let's just like talk about the book, right? So you've wrote the book. Tell anyone that doesn't know that's listening, what's the premise of A Glasgow Kiss?
I think it's basically about a young student who is trying to navigate the dating world. Like, obviously in the 21st century, she's going out on all these dodgy dates, meeting the most random guys, falling in love, like insecure, trying to find herself.
Falling in love, probably.
Yep, infatuation, like with literally any guy that walks past her. And then it's really about her finding herself and her career as well. It's not just that, but it is really, really funny. The banter, it's like total Glaswegian banter as well. I think
like, so I went on holiday, like we went on holiday in October, and Steph had brought the book, and I was like, that's that book everybody talks about. But I think what I remember picking up from it was just the way in what you write is just so, like, there's no airs or graces, which is exactly what we fucking need in Scotland. Like, gone are the days of writing fantastic fictional novels with Zorist, like, empathy. I'm like, it's not about that, it's about how it really fucking happened. And I think that's probably why the roaring success of the books have happened.
There's like no filter. There's no filter. But I feel like I'm very unfiltered as well, which is most of the reason I don't do podcasts. I'm like, what should you say?
If we're going to learn one, you've learned one thing with hanging out with me. I'm like, I've got myself in some awful situations from forgetting to just, I always get told, and God bless if the PR company that deal with me are listening to this, she always says to me, just take a beat before you speak. I'm like that, right, Pam, because then I go 100 miles an hour and I'm like, fuck, what did I say that for? But so then what happened next? So you've wrote this book, what do you do when you write a book? Who do you let read it? What happened? Talk us through that.
So I finished the book, and the Sex in the Glasgow City blogs were totally anonymous, and I had plans to be totally anonymous with the book.
Really?
Because I was like,
so you had an anonymous blog first?
The blog was
so
totally...
how do you gather a following from that? Just on like...
It was actually happened really quick. I didn't expect it, like, but it did actually happen.
But blogs were probably massive at this peak. Blogs were before vlogs and were before Instagram. Like, I remember... You had a blog before you had an Instagram page years ago.
Yeah, aye, definitely. And it was Instagram really that was pushing it, but I had a few people that had, like, a few like influencers and stuff that had cottoned on and had shared it, but obviously didn't know it was me. So that's really, life. I know, it was great because people used to send you DMs and it like not realising it was people that I knew, and I'm like, oh my god, how you it was totally surreal, but it was great. So I had planned to do it anonymously, and then I thought, do you know what, fuck it, like this is my chance. 100%. Like, so I basically researched on how to publish a book. And I YouTubed it all, and I turned it into a book. It says on YouTube there's like 0% chance of a first novelist to basically get published. So I was like, okay, I'll self-publish. So
your first book, did you publish yourself?
Self-published it.
But then after that, you're now with a publisher?
It gets signed to I self-published it just for... I put it out one night and told like my Facebook friends and stuff, like, and was like,
I've got my book
warning, I've wrote a book during COVID, blah blah blah, and I went to sleep, and then the next morning I woke up and it was #1 bestseller trending. So it was literally overnight. And then it just grew, like it was literally grew, and then the papers and stuff were picking up, and then I signed with a publishing company who took over it.
And so I know someone else that published their own book, and one of the things that I just find so mental, right, is like the hassle, the time, the length that she went through. I think it was like 2 years before she could even get it on Amazon. So like for you to do that in that period of time, like that's came for hard work. You're saying like, you know, you're downplaying that then as if you've went to bed one night, you woke up as an Amazon bestseller, like you fucking grafted for years.
I have,
like, and I think like all of the hard work you've probably put in, and like being a writer's probably a certain element of life experience, right? And like all of the experiences you've went through, from like being a young mum to having like some of these tales have probably came through your life at different points that you've put into a book.
Yeah, definitely. And my friends, like they used to go out and I'd be like,
tell me what happened. I love that. Yeah. So you write the first book, and this is when I remember going, wow, this is fucking amazing. A girl from Glasgow's wrote a book. I remember going up the fort, and there was people like, I'll never forget, we went to Nando's and someone was like, fucking sold it. Like, but I just remember the buzz of it, and you know Abby Blythe, don't you, as well? I remember like, so I'm good pals with Abby, and I remember like her being like infatuated by it on social media.
She literally helped me so much in terms of like, she had obviously found it following, and she posted it, and since then like it just went boom as well. Like I'm so grateful to Abby, Megan, and like
all the other girls,
loads of different
but it's just,
girls,
you know what,
well.
I think it is so nice as well, is like I think we now live in a world where Glasgow's a village, right? And like, see when you're in that community, like I went for a meeting the other day and someone was like, you know, when you're in the gang, you're in the gang, and it's about everybody supporting each other, and like no matter like what somebody does, I'm like, it takes somebody a certain amount of work ethic to fucking write a book. So why we not celebrating? Like, we live in a society, and I say this probably in most episodes, where in Scotland people are institutionalised to be like, what the fuck are they doing that for? And I'm like, get that gone. I'm like, let's celebrate success. Like, you are a female writer from Scotland that's now third book coming out soon.
Yeah.
Why are we not talking about this? Why are we reading stories that Michelle McManus is doing the Christmas light switch on? Michelle, you're a lovely woman, but I imagine that it's time for us to move on. So I think that it's so important to celebrate success. So you've gone from a blog, you've wrote your first book. What changed in life for you then? Like, how did your life change? How did it feel? Let's talk about that.
It was insane. It was literally insane. So obviously there was this big boom. My phone was red hot. Like, I couldn't believe it. And I had sold something. So I had like Googled up the average amount of books that you sell in a year, and the average author sells 200 books a year.
Shut up. Wow.
And within the first month I'd sold 10,000. So I was like...
You're definitely the number one bestseller then. Get that crown on.
I was like buzzing with that, obviously. And I couldn't believe it. I remember saying, if I just have enough money to pay to get my new bathroom. And so like, I literally obviously had that money, and then really quickly I paid everything up in tick. Like my couch was up in tick, my telly was in tick, my what's it called? My kitchen was in tick. And
I love that you're calling it tick.
Everything was in tick.
For anyone that's not from Glasgow, what would we describe tick as? Like, I don't know if I'll put that one. Well, it's like, essentially, you know, like you're paying it up, right?
Aye.
So like, we all stop this, you know.
Man.
Tick man. Do you remember years, like, I don't know if you know this, right? But we used to chat about this, like, do you remember what the Provi man was?
Oh, man, I knew Bobby Brown was at the Provi every Friday.
Well, there you go, right? We were talking about this a few weeks ago in the office, right? And Jasmine, who's one of my staff, but it's like my best pal, right? We always talk about this. We're like, she's quite brazen. I'm like, see, like when you get these parking tickets, private car parks, I'm like, you're not paying that. I'm like, get them to fuck. And
so
she's like,
a council
exactly. If Glasgow City Council at the door, you'll pay it. But if it's, you know, Brewster Bears car park, you're not paying it. And Jasmine was like, she went, I haven't told my mum, you told me not to pay that. She's like that, well, won't be that when the Provi man's at the door looking for the money. So no, I think that's so funny, and just like, I think that is what makes Scotland so fucking brilliant. Like, people in Glasgow have been brought up in a different breed. We've not had a silver spoon in our mouth. We've probably been closing the blinds from the Provi man, which is total character building. So you've basically then been in a position that you've been able to pay all of that off, I imagine.
The first thing I done was pay all my debt off.
Wow. Just think for your kids as well. Like, how inspiring is that to think like, you've worked so hard up until that point, and like that's just like a breath of fresh air off your shoulders.
It was massive. It was like massive to even be able to go on holiday and like do things like that. And then I bought a new car and I bought a new house as well. So it was literally within such a short space of time.
Life-changing.
It was
life-changing. It's a life-changing story. And bearing in mind, you're also still working full time, but I just think that goes down to work ethic. You've probably been in a position where you went, I don't actually need to go here, but is that probably so big a part of your life now as well?
I love my job. In my particular ward, I work in a renal ward, so it's the same patients that are waiting on dialysis and stuff
so
like
they're
that.
In like, you're building up good relationships.
Yeah, so I literally love all my patients. I love the staff as well. And plus, when you write books, you're not getting an income that's guaranteed every month. And obviously I've got kids, like I can't take that chance. Like every 6 months you get a big lump sum, but by that time you're like, I'm needing the garden done, and I'm
listen, you know yourself. I'm like, there's the decking peeling up. You need to get that fixed.
So it just gives you a better quality of life.
100%. But I also think like, we sit here on, you know, a business driven podcast, and I think it's so important to say that, like, as a generation, it comes from hard work. It's not that you've, like, you know, plonked a book on Amazon and Amazon stung you the words are good. You've grafted, you know, you've made a blog, you've shared it with people, and the nation has got behind it. And I think that's just so important to say. So you write your first book, and then Scotland, the nation, the world are asking for more. So tell us about your next book. What did you then write?
Yeah, so after that, I had obviously lots of messages, and people were reading that in like a day and being like, right, what's new? And I thought, that just took me 10 months to write. What's
Slow
new?
down.
Aye. So I started writing What Happens in Dubai.
And tell us what happens in Dubai is all about.
So it's basically a follow-on from the first book. So I don't want to ruin the story, but at the end of the first book, she's decided to be more independent. She doesn't need a man. She's like living her best life. So what happens in Dubai starts from there. She's single and she is ready to mingle. Like, she's going mental.
Like every Dubai girl that there is, you know, she's over there loving life.
So she goes on her workshops to Dubai, and she sees her ex there. There's loads of drama. She comes back, she meets a guy in the plane in the clinic that she works at. She works in an aesthetics clinic, and they're struggling to pay and she's trying to build up a business plan to try and secure that. And then she's stuck in the middle between two guys, so she basically has to decide which one.
Which then maybe leads us on to where currently we have a bit of an exclusive. You are just about to release
Yep.
Another one.
Yeah.
Is it a follow-on?
It is. So it's the third and the final of that series.
The final?
Yeah. So I'm doing 3 books. It's a trilogy. So yeah.
And tell us what. Can we have a name?
It's called Meet Me in Milan.
Meet Me in Milan.
Yeah.
And when can we expect to have Meet Me in Milan out?
It's the 17th of August. Wow. Really soon.
Is that an exclusive?
I think it is at the minute. Yeah, it is going on this week though. So.
Well, that's good. Well, that's good to know. So we've got to look forward to that. So let's just talk about writing a book. It's hard.
Yep.
But like, what does that do for you? How does it make you feel when you're writing?
When I'm writing, I feel stressed. Like, I'm not going to...
Do you?
Do you know, I wrote A Glasgow Kiss and no one knew I was writing it, and it was very chilled. Like, I could pick it up, but now I've got deadlines. So I'm like...
You're on it.
Constantly.
Yeah.
And then... So I'll maybe finish work at 8 and then have a power nap to 10 and then write till 2, then back up at 6. Like, so I just really need to structure because there's so much...
But you just obviously said something there, and this is me probably being a bit of, a wanky actor or a wanky drama teacher, right? But like, you've just started talking about like the plots within the plots, where like the clinic struggling and all of that. That is like difficult to manage as well.
Yeah.
That's very academic. It's very like, coming from a place of like story plotting, and there's probably a lot bigger that people don't.
Yeah.
People probably look at you as like a Glasgow tale and think that you've sat there and wrote a story, but there's a hell of a lot of academia and a hell of a lot of in-depth work that needs to go into that.
I didn't want it to be just like a romantic novel, like about a guy. I wanted it to be more about a life and about I wanted it to be more motivational. Do you know what I mean? I didn't want it just to be about men.
Where do you think you get your inspiration from as a writer?
I think my friends, although I could be walking down the street and see something and my mind's like, oh, I could use
Pure
that.
observant.
Yeah, totally. And then just like email myself it or whatever.
Reminder, that woman I've seen in Downtown Main Street.
I'll get up. The worst is when I'll literally be lying in my bed thinking, right, you've got 4 hours before work, you've got 4 hours before, and then something will click my mind. I'll need to put the light on and just start taking notes.
Do you always have a notepad beside your bed?
Yeah.
Because like I have a notepad beside my bed and we always talk about this, right? But like some of the best ideas come to you during the night.
100%.
And I'm like, was I sweating there? Was I dreaming? Did that happen?
Yep.
So it's interesting, and when we talk about like the law of attraction and talk about all of that, how into that are you?
Oh, I'm so into it. Like, if I'm losing motivation, if I'm having a slump where I just can't get into back to writing or whatever, like if I'm like, oh, I really should be writing, I'll just put on like...
What's your like go-to, right?
Tony Robbins.
See, I think he's so motivational. I just love hearing it from like a voice that's similar to yours. Like I would find listening to this so much more motivating, right?
Really?
Than like, see when they're like, do it, pure the American.
His voice as well, it's so raspy. You're
I
like,
quite like that. There's one that sometimes if I have like, yourself, you wake up and you're like, shit, 2 shite emails have came in, need to deal with that. But there's this thing that's just like on your phone and it's like fearless motivation, right? And see sometimes like I'll forget that I've got it in the car, come back in and plug it in and I'm like, whoa, I was at 6 o'clock this morning, I needed that bit too deep now. But I think that like it's so important to say like, so like your kind of journey of like, we laugh about this, right? Because in my panto this year, one of my dames was like, I've been in a journey of self-development, but on your journey of self-development, like how important has that been for you? The motivation, the checking in with yourself, the listening to Tony Robbins.
It's massive. I feel like if I did, like I would say that's probably, because I think your mindset's probably 95% of the work. Like I can't remember the last time I went out on a night out, like because it's literally constant graft. I'm writing book 4 at the minute as well, and you get your deadlines is like a year before it's due to come out. So my deadline for this is October. But I'm still,
do it.
I know. So I'm still like doing all the proofreads for Meet Me in Milan, still like doing all the PR and stuff like that for Meet Me in Milan, working full time, and it's just a nightmare.
Wow.
So I think you need to be in a good mindset, but it's exciting now because I know that this is coming out. So I'm like,
do you not think it's like it's a buzz as well, because probably all the stories and all the work that you've been doing, eventually the world's getting to see.
Yeah, definitely.
So who do you let proofread it? Do you let any of your pals? Who do you let in?
Yeah, so like I say to my pal, I think they're over it. They're just like, oh, I like holding a book. I'm like, Mate, I've been working for 10
You
months.
get yourself
read
down
this.
and get the read out the printer.
But my friend Maggie in work she is like my go-to, and she's blunt as anything. Like if she doesn't like something, she'll tell you.
Big up Maggie for her honesty.
Yes, but I sent it to Maggie, meet me in Milan, and she was like, I'm greeting. I love it. I think it's my favourite. I love it. So
that's so good.
I feel so much better. Just
You're
even one
inspired to get
person.
it. So Maggie's gave you the seal of approval and we're ready
that's
to
all
go.
I need. That's all I need.
I love that. So book 3 is on the way. You're already writing book 4. So let's just talk about like, what's the goal for it?
I think the goal for me is a series. Like that is my goal
TV
for.
series.
I like the sort of Zara trilogy. I would love it.
So I obviously work with kids. I have a theatre school. We have a kids talent agency, right? Do you know majority of commissions are coming from books at the moment?
Yeah.
Like look at, like we've just got one that's just come back, right? I don't know if I can say that yet, so I won't say it, but one that's just came back, and even look at Shetland, right? Shetland is a book that's like an author that's just writing about what's happening in Shetland, about this detective. Like, let's ask the universe for it. It's going to happen, surely.
I know. I've had certainly, even in the last few weeks, had a lot of interest and stuff like that. It's just these things move so slowly, and I'm like,
we talk about this, right? Like, it sits on a producer's desk, and sometimes it'll end up there, and then they'll maybe pick it up 2 years later, and they want everything for you rapidly, and then it's like, Sheridan Smith's wanting to write a new pilot, and then Sheridan's back in. But I think that's certainly where I would like see you. And I just think we were actually thinking this the other day when we were chatting about getting you on for a guest. But like, if it came to that, how involved would you like to be?
Oh, I would totally. I mean, I feel like it's my baby, so I would totally love to be involved.
Are you going to give me a part?
Do you want a part? Yeah.
I'd love a part. Who can I play? Well,
I know. The panty sniffer.
There you go. From the apprentice to the creep standing outside the toilet sniffing the pants. No, I'm definitely having a cameo role. I'm putting it out there. But I just think, like, these are the type of things we need to see on telly, right?
Yeah.
Like, I am a massive advocate for some of these high-class BBC dramas, right? But look at something like Vigil, right? Very far-fetched. How many people do you know that have worked in a fucking submarine?
I know.
I'm like, let's bring it back to real stories, real lives. Although I love Saran Jones, the writing's amazing, but I'm like, let's see these working class voices, these normal stories on the telly.
I think that was like I think that's the reason the books are so relatable as well, because it is sort of working class and it's aimed at that. And I think the biggest thing that people like about it is because it's these Glasgow's all these crime writers, like it's all crime and this and that, but it's not like that.
No,
you get into town and have a good night. Like,
do you know what's quite funny as well, right? See, when you, like, after filming the show, I've now got like a lot of English pals here say, and they're always like, Glasgow's mental, and I'm like, no. Like, you go on a night out, there's genuinely somebody that's pissed, right? You go to Manchester, there's somebody that's pissed. Never in my life have I walked down Glasgow and saw somebody be stabbed, somebody be shot, and I'm like, so I just don't know why we have this persona that we're all crackpots.
I know, we definitely do. And
I mean, we're maybe a bit mental, but I don't think that we're out, doing a bit of stabbing on a Saturday night.
It's crazy. Like, I feel like it brings a sort of lighter current vibe to, like, just a nice vibe.
I think that there's one person that I think of, right, when you talk about this, like, trilogy of, like, someone dating and having a real writing. Like, we laugh at this. One of my pals, Katie, her pal Lauren, I'm just like, I'm going to need to say to Lauren to read this and find out that there's going to be some hope. I feel that lassie has kissed more frogs in Glasgow than what she knows what to do with. But, and I think there is always somebody in your group or somebody that you know, a cousin that you're like, God, that relates to, and it's about relatability. So probably why you've been picked up so well is because it's a real story. It's real life, and it's going on every single weekend in Glasgow.
Yeah, definitely.
So the goal is we would love a TV trilogy, season 1, 2 and 3.
Yeah, I would love that.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine the film?
I know.
Season 1 in Glasgow, season 2 in Dubai, season 3 in Milan.
I know.
Oh, I'm coming in the shoot. I'm there. I don't know what job I'm going to be doing, but I'm on it. So that's the goal.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, I think it is definitely realistic, and
100%.
just keep everything crossed.
So we're asking the universe
Yep.
for season 1, 2 and 3 of this to happen. I love it. So let's talk about when life kind of changed. Let's talk about the highs, the lows. Let's talk about how did your life change and like how did it make you feel?
I think it just changed. It just changed so suddenly, but it was amazing. Like I was very, very self-conscious. To be honest, that would probably be I was walking into work, and even now, like my friends in work are bigging it up to all the 80-year-old patients, and they're reading it, and I'm like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, don't read it. Like, but I was really self-conscious, and I used to say to people all the time, like, please don't read it, because I'd be embarrassed about the content.
Why though?
I know, it's so silly. And
shout it, but like, you need to be shouting about it. It's fucking amazing.
But I used to be really, really self-conscious about it. But now I've grown to love it. Like, I'm just like, yeah. They're like, are you the wee lassie that writes? I'm like, yes, A Glasgow Kiss. You can get it Amazon, Waterstones, W.H. Smith. Like, but I think my life changed like that. It changed financially for the better. I think it gave me a lot more confidence. Probably the low point though is I find it really hard to date.
Do you?
Because everybody is like, oh, can I get a part in your book? Like, that's the patter. That is the patter.
Nice.
Whereas
already
I'm like,
got 3, mate. Calm down. There's been 10 of you in these
Don't
books
flatter
before. You're
yourself.
nothing special, Peter.
Unless you've got a fetish with no work tone.
So that's quite interesting. You find that, like, do you find that people think they know you?
Aye, people. Oh my god, yeah. And they'll be like, people say, oh, you know so and so. You know, you're good pals with so and so, and I'm thinking, I've never heard the lads to you. Like, do you know what I mean?
See, do you know what I've got to laugh at? Right, I always find this so quite. Do you know what? And I'm like, we all are Scottish people. We all think we are, but like the world thinks they know you. I'm like that. I've probably got about 5 pals, and when it's I went to school with him, and I was in the whatever team, and I'm like, I don't even know that person's name, but that is just a Scottish mentality. But I think for you, you probably find that that's why it's hard to date, because people are probably going, oh, I know her, or oh, I've heard of her, and they'll have some random story about you that's probably 4% true.
Yeah, and I think unless you read the books, because the books are really motivational and really sort of, it's more like a girl power like kind of book, whereas guys cotton on the fact that there's hundreds of sex in it.
So guys think you're a big seed bomb.
So they think I'm a big erotic novelist, which I kind of am, but they go with that. So
you've got more guys probably in the DMs wanting to come up to your house.
But it's never empty that you want, isn't it? It's always the same story.
That's so funny. So that's what you feel. Talk about like the process of probably, I say like becoming like, you know, in the public eye, but just like the world knowing you a wee bit more. Like any negatives to that, anything that, you know, you would just think if you were to do it again, you would change?
No, I suppose the negatives would be, obviously, I don't want my kids to be around. I just don't want them. I don't really post pictures of my kids or stuff like that, because I don't really think it's necessary. No. And then a couple of times people say, "Oh, well, is she a mum?" Because blah, 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 like, and that sort of thing. And
look at Holly Willoughby.
I know,
right?
I know.
And I'm like, that's your work. That's your business page. That's hard though.
I've got a personal Instagram account, but like my pals are on it. Like, do you know what I mean? Which is just full of pictures of us. But I just kind of think there's no need to post pictures of my children, or would people will message and be like, oh, if you really get 2 kids, and that seems to be bother people, and I'm like, yes, I do. Like,
what's it got to do with it?
I know.
But I think we live in a world where people think they're entitled to know every piece of information about you.
They just want to know everything.
Which I'm like, listen, we need that probably to keep like the buzz of life, right? But like, I also find it so entertaining. Like, see if I've had like a couple of days like off stories, people like message like, hi, what's going on? Are you filming something? And I'm like, I've had a day off and I'm in the spa at Glen Eagles. I'm like, piss off and leave me alone.
I know.
So it's interesting, but you also think that like that comes of a world of social media where you probably, which again, it's a 2-pronged attack, because probably you need it, we probably feed it.
Yeah.
But it is like some people get very invested. Do you feel that you've got some real invested readers?
Loads. Like, I'll go somewhere and I was in the toilet. I was in town the other day for my lunch, and I went into the toilet and someone followed me in the toilet for a selfie. And I know, I was like, oh, right. And I was pure bursting for a pee, and I was like, trying to think. And she's like, I seen you sitting there. I said, I'll wait till she goes to the toilet. And it's really nice.
It is nice.
It is nice. And it's like, God, come up to Monklands and I'll be bloody
scrubs on,
dialyzing you if you want. Like, do you know what I mean? And I think that's a massive, because like I'll do these events and see loads of people and they've all came, and then the next day
you're in the hospital.
I'm in the hospital.
But I think that's just so grounding. I think, like, do you know what? Like, it's like a pure double life though.
It is totally.
You're like Beyonce and Sasha Fierce. I love it. So you would say that, you know, that is one thing we all talk about, is like, you know, people, life's just probably never going to be the same.
Yeah.
Just need to remember your P's and Q's in public.
Yeah, definitely.
Which we were just talking about. So the process of writing a book, we've covered that. We've covered that you were self-published, and now what's next? So now you've almost got a team supporting you, a team helping you to kind of get to the next stage with the books. Talk about that.
Yeah, so I've obviously I signed with Orion Books, which is one of the biggest UK publishers, worldwide publishers.
You say that so casually, like, worldwide. I think I'm like,
I know,
so good.
I chose well. And they're down in London based, but I have got a really good team down there. So they've got their own PR team all in house and stuff like that. My editor's amazing, and so I've got a team up here too.
Do you write and then you basically give someone to edit, and then maybe someone that would like help storyline, or is it just
I write. So I know I write 80,000 words. I have to finish the full thing before I send it down, which is like horrible, because if I've went off somewhere, this could be like totally wrong.
So you need to finish it first, then submit.
Yeah, you need to finish it. You need to finish the whole thing, and then they'll come with edits. But I've been really, really lucky that they've actually
not had many.
No.
Do they understand it?
What Happens in Dubai was called She Is a Belter. And they were like, this doesn't make sense.
What does that mean?
Because it is in obviously all the London shops and stuff. It is down south everywhere as well. It's everywhere. So they were like, no, we need to change the name.
I think that's so interesting, because sometimes when I speak, right, like probably like you, I would say some things even in the boardroom, and they would go, what? And I'd be like, sorry. And I'd be like trying to pure translate. And it's like, we don't speak that different, but some people just don't get what we're saying.
Well, I'm even writing it and they can't read it.
That's what I'm saying. Do they get it? I love that.
Sometimes.
So with becoming this amazing powerhouse author, best-selling author, mum and nurse, probably comes what you've had to do and not even noticed, is becoming a business.
Yeah.
And talk about, how's that transition been for you? How have you transitioned? You are a business owner, you're a CEO, you're a CEO of your books, you're the CEO of your life, but how's that journey been for you?
I think that's probably been the hardest, because I'm not a natural businesswoman, I wouldn't say, like in terms of, so you keep on top of the social media and the mails and the sort of, and the promotion, like stuff like that. I find it's just finding the time. Like I don't mind doing it if I've got the time, but it's prioritising, isn't it? It's prioritising what you need at the particular time. But no, it's been amazing, because it's kind of my own wee bubble, but again, my team are amazing. And they're helping me. So my PR team and stuff like that up here in Elliot has been helping me like massively. That's sort of run it all. So yeah.
But you are running a business at the same time. Like, you know, you're saying that just like, like, you know, I've got the PR, like PR teams take work. Like, you know, you're needing to go through the PR documents before they go out to press. And so.
You need to go through everything, yeah.
See, sometimes like before something goes live, right, do you feel that gut of like, oh, have I read that all properly? Because we all know, like, sometimes I'm like, shit, what was in that document that's going to press today? And I'm like, did I read that? And then I'm like, did I say that? Did you say that? But owning a business, what would you say are like the struggles that have came with that?
I think you need to be 100% in, don't you? Like, so it is basically, it takes over your entire life. Like, it genuinely, every single thing needs to be totally invested. And I think that's probably the struggle, like even having a day off if you've not posted on social media, like you feel guilty, like things like that. So for me, that would be sorting out your finances as well, like because you're trying to work it all out, get a good accountant. Yeah, and I think just keep them grounded, keep them making sure you're in it all the time. I go through all my meals every single night just to
stay on top of it.
Stay on top. And I've got someone that does my meals, but just make sure they would answer the same way that I would answer, like stuff
Which
like
is
that.
also, it's like, it's total control. And I think probably when you get to a certain level, you don't know what's right and what's wrong. When it gets to that manpower of like not being a one-person organisation and needing these teams, it's like making sure that they're authentic to you, making sure that they're authentic to the way you write, the way you speak, but also making sure that they're still relatable to your audience. That's a big responsibility to be on your head. Like, you've created this community in Scotland and worldwide that like people want you, and that's probably the hardest thing, where you're like, you need to manage people's expectations.
Yeah, so like talking stories. Like, I keep
What's
getting
your
told,
view on them?
I keep getting told I need to do more talking stories, but every time I'm just cringing. I'm just cringing for myself, because I'm like,
Sophie, I'm mortified on my like. See, if I wasn't me, I would like, put it this way, I wouldn't like me if I wasn't me. We always say this. My mum's like, love that one when you were in the motor doing the talking, and I'm like, brilliant, I'm glad somebody did, but I'm like, you need to do it. Like,
you do.
If I was to just post photos and you were just to post photos of like selfies, like, it's not relatable. People want to see you talk.
I know.
And I think we just all need to get over that fear. Like, somebody posted the other day and they were like, mortified posting this, but here I posted, and it's like, it's true, so but true. Like, I think we just need to try and remove that, because it's so much more interactive now. Like, gone are the days.
I love watching people's talking stories, but I just feel like
a vlog.
A big creep. I'm just like pure, and then I'm like, oh, why did I do that? Oh, I said about a million times. Like, it's.
I said this a few weeks ago, right? But I remember watching, like, there's a Glasgow blogger, and she's a mum, and I was like, I remember coming into the office one day, and 40 minutes last night I spent her watching unpacking a fridge, and I'm like, why do we find shit like that entertaining? I know. But as I was like, I think, like, honestly, she'd went to like B&M, and I'm like, I'm a 26-year-old man, and I'm watching a woman go to B&M and unpack her fridge, and I'm like, but that's the kind of shit that people are interested in. I'm like, so I think that gone are the days of like us having the fear. Let's make that commitment to ourselves that we're like, we'll be on the stories.
I'm going to do a talking story tonight.
Well, there you go, you can do it. So, owning your business and coming as like a CEO onto this, what would you tell your younger self?
I would be more confident. I would take more chances. I feel like as soon as I started taking the chances in terms of telling people it was me, writing the books and taking these big leaps forward, that's exactly when you start.
When you put yourself out there almost.
And everything moves up a notch, doesn't it? It definitely does. I think you need to take big risks if you want to go for any length in it. The stuff that I've wrote about, like at the times I've questioned it, like I'm like, can I say that? Can I say that? But I feel like you just need to.
Do you not think the stuff that you've
risk.
wrote about is it's made you the success that you are?
Yeah, so I definitely think it.
Find a lot of time in your own head.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, I say this all the time, you spend 95% of your life in your own head.
Yep.
But when you're knowing that mindset and you're like, fuck it, I'm doing this, or do you know what, I'm just going to go for it. That's probably when the magic happens. And I think that, like, we always talk about life begins at the end of your comfort zone, and probably when your life did begin is literally when you went, do you know what, I'm writing a blog and I'm writing a book.
Yep.
And there's something so special in that, where like, look at the success that's come off the back of it. So what would you tell your younger self then? Just
to do it. Stop, like, don't bother what anyone else thinks, and honestly just take risks and dream big. Yep.
I remember seeing a quote somebody had said, and it was like, let's live in a life where things happen on a big scale. I fucking love that one. I'm just like, you know, we all love our work, we all love getting up every day, but I'm like, y'all want the big ideas. It's like, and I think that as a generation in Scotland, I would love nothing more than to create like the next generation of kids and talent that are like, I fucking want my own show in Disney. Like, why can we not have that?
Definitely.
Why are we institutionalised to think that like the highest sights of an actor are going in River City? I'm like, River City's lovely. It's great that it's filmed 20 minutes down the road. And if you want to come back to Scotland and retire or have a couple of kids, it's brilliant. But let's live in a world where we go, do you know what? I want my own show in Disney. Let's not go, did you hear them saying that? Like, I just think that as a nation, we should be so much more supportive of other people.
I said that when I wrote the book, part of the reason I didn't tell anyone, obviously I didn't have a writing background, and like, because people will be like, oh, did you hear she's writing a book? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's totally the West of Scotland attitude.
It is the West of Scotland attitude, and I think that from starting this, it's so marginalised. It's tiny.
Aye.
But we are all subconsciously thinking about it. I'm like, why do we care about Sharon for Les Mahego?
I know.
I couldn't care less what Sharon's got to say. And I think that, like, it's so interesting that you all get fixated on it, and you do, but it's like, do you know what? In the grand scheme of things, Sharon, I bet you're a lovely woman, right? But you're not going to be paying the bills.
Exactly.
That's what it comes down to. So I think that, like, this season, I have had all females on so far, which I've loved, right? And I think that, like, I have a 95% female team, and I'm like, as you said, how you run a house, run 2 kids, run a business, and go to your work, right? Some of my staff, I'm like, you've done a shift before you get here. Like, they've got the kids at school, they've got the kids at nursery, and I'm like, that for me needs to be spoke about a bit more often. Like, it's something that I've found over this season that I'm, like, learning. I'm like, you know, as a business owner, I probably need to be a bit more aware of, like, how can I help? How can I make changes to the organisation? But what would you say makes a strong female CEO?
I think to be supportive, obviously I'm very in my sort of thing myself. Like, I've got teams that are supporting me. But I think if they're leading a team, like, my boss is amazing just now, and she is so supportive, on hand anytime. Positive feedback as well is massive. Like, see if you're having a shitty day at work and somebody will say you've done really well there, it just makes 100 times better, doesn't it? And yeah, just really being there and knowing somebody's got your back and putting the work in as well. I think they need to put in
the graft.
Yep, the graft.
Do you think that? I think that a strong leader is about motivation and vision as well, right? And I think that opening up in a conversation is like, you don't ever want anyone to feel like, oh my God, I need to go and speak to him. Like, you don't ever want that, right? Or like people to come to you. But I think that that's also really hard because you're trying to strike the balance between, like, firm but fair. And I think that where it's really difficult is, like, for me, I have took, like, so much this year from, like, speaking to the guests I've had on where I'm like, hold on a minute here. You've done an actual shift before you come to your work. Your kid's been up all night. You're probably shattered. I'm like, really, is it that deep that, you know, a couple of emails have been missed? No, let's look after people and look after the welfare. And I think that that's one thing that I've really learned on this season of, like, probably it's about listening to people as well. Yeah,
definitely.
So if you could sum up what makes a good CEO in 3 words, what would you say?
I would say strong-minded. Good listener, to be fair, and inspirational.
I love that. That's a good one. It's a good one to have on. So we talk about this quite a lot in the podcast, right? But I always say everything in life is either a lesson or a blessing. And last week I had on an amazing guest who the journey was just like up and down and so interesting. But if you were to talk about this chapter of your life of, like, so from start to now, how long has this ride of the books been going? 2019?
Yeah, 2020. December 2000, just the very end, yeah.
It's really just like 2 years.
Yeah.
So these 2 years, how's it felt?
It's been crazy. It's been amazing. Like, it's been completely life-changing, but it has felt the pressure. It has been a lot of pressure, like, it really has. And even people, like, would say to you, oh, well, I remember someone in my work said to me one time, so I'd ready to release What Happens in Dubai at A Glasgow Kiss was, like, a massive success. And I was like, what if I'm, like, a one-hit wonder, you know, like, pure.
Kenny Katona.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, what if I'm, and then, and everyone's been really nice and weird to my face, like, really reassuring. Like, no, you've done this, so you can do this again. And I'm like, oh, shit. And then this wee woman goes, well, you know what they say here? And I'm like, oh, what's that? She's like, it's never as good as the first.
What?
Thanks very much. Thanks, Marion. Do you know what I mean?
Who's that? Is Marion as a patient? Well, there you go.
So I was like, all right, okay.
Why do these? Like, it's so bizarre, right? Because that's just, again, that pure old school pattern. Like, you know, like when people watch a film, it's not as good as the first one. And I'm like, who says?
What Happens in Dubai has actually sold more copies than A Glasgow Kiss, considering it's the second book as well. So,
but I also just think that's just like that West of Scotland mentality, isn't it?
Yeah. So the pressure is there, but overall it has been
probably double the pressure, right? Because you have got that. You also start to tell yourself that. You're probably saying to yourself, I'm a one-hit wonder. I'm a one-hit wonder.
I was reading it and going, this is shite, and putting it away, saying this is shite.
Shit, I need to release this. It's going to come out soon.
But then, if I had a break from it and I read it, I'd be like, oh, did I say that?
How many times do you think you read it from start to finish?
Oh my God. See, Meet Me in Milan, like, I've just been sent the Kindle version to read now, just to make sure.
How long does it take you to read that, though?
It probably takes me about 2 days but I'm going through every single line, making sure there's no any mistakes. But when I read this must be maybe the 12th time I've read this, but I'm fed up of it. But I still read it and laugh, so that's a good sign.
That's a good sign. It still makes you laugh.
This one has made me, like, I really, really like this one that's coming out, and I feel so much better about it than what I did.
Do you feel like you've grown as a writer as well?
I feel like my writing sense is a lot better. My writing style and stuff like that is
and you've
a lot
probably
better.
got a style now as well, which is so nice to see, because I think that like anything, when you do something once, you're like, all right, okay, I've kind of found my feet there. Like, how do I amplify that? But you've now did that twice. You're ready for this third one.
You can smash out the park now, like
8,000 words, banging it out. So, what would you say this whole 2 years has been? A lesson or a blessing?
A bit of both, but overall I would say it's been a blessing. Total.
What lesson have you took from
it? Basically, again, just to go for it, to take the chance. To if I had never even started the blog, if COVID had never happened, and which made me write the book, I would never have probably written a book. You
probably find that I think you're the only nurse in the world to come out of COVID with a book. So I think the rest of them come out with like so many more.
Tub at the back.
And an ice bath for the cold water therapy.
I know.
I need to ask you this. How is life on an NHS ward at the moment? Hard.
Aye, it's really hard. We've had quite a tough couple of weeks actually, but yeah, we don't need to wear masks. That's the one positive thing I think that's come out yet. But yeah,
just
really
oversubscribed.
Aye, there's no staff really.
Wow.
And the patients are really sick, so it's nice to come out and like get a break.
Sitting here, I'm like that in this lovely bloody set that we're sitting.
But no, it is really difficult. But everybody's amazing. It's a great team and stuff like that.
That's
and
so
I
good.
think if it wasn't for the team, I would have left years ago. But the team in the ward and in the hospital and my hospital in general are amazing.
Just amazing.
Yeah.
So I suppose that my question for you would be, I always say, right, like a quote gets you to a point that some motivation wouldn't. If you were to say what's your favourite quote or a quote that you could pass on, what would it be?
Oh, I know it's the J.K. Rowling one, but I can't actually remember what it is.
What is it? Find it.
Right, let's find it. This is my favourite.
I love this, right? Because this is one of the questions that I always ask people, right? And I think that it's just quite interesting to finish up on a quote that's going to keep you engaged.
Yep.
But I think that this is probably quite an interesting one for you.
It's making sure I'm not a bloody robot here on my safari. Come on. Right, okay. Okay, she's done a lot of quotes.
J.K. Rowling must be like a bloody inspiration to you as well. She's Scottish, isn't she?
Yeah.
Wow.
One of my patients was saying to me the other day that he's like that, you know, are you that way often? I said, aye. And he says, do you know something? I've met another offer. He says, I used to deliver curry pies and a wee woman in a shop loved a curry pie. He says, and it was fucking J.K. Rowling.
There you go. So J.K. Rowling likes a curry pie.
A curry pie.
If you were to say your favourite quote to sum up this episode, to finish us off, what would it be?
Anything is possible if you've got enough nerve. And it's by J.K. Rowling.
What? Anything is possible if you've got enough nerve.
Yep.
Wow, that's quite nice. I'm going to sit on that one and think of that. Well, thank you very much for joining me. We have covered your new book. We've covered. We're asking it. We're putting it to the universe. Let's ask it. We're going to have a TV season. Yes. You're going to be the writer, a screenwriter. I'm going to be the guy. I'm going to be the creep outside the toilet. It has been so nice to have you on, and what a breath of fresh air. I think the one thing that I'm going to take from this episode is just like, do you know what? Life begins at the end of your comfort zone, and just go for it. Like, what's the worst that can happen? People say no, and I just think that it's been so inspiring to hear someone like how hard you've worked over the past few years, and I'm so excited to see what happens next.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining me.